Welcome back, guys, to the Rural Property Podcast. This week we are joined by Matt Holland from Newton Fallowell. He's an estate agent from Boston, Lincolnshire. He owns 4 franchises across the county, and we're going to be grilling him on everything when it comes to selling houses. You may remember him from a previous YouTube video where he massively undervalued our house in Louth. Only joking, mate. Watch this space.
Okay.
Alright.
Yeah.
Are we live?
I think we are live. Can I, just in case it's in any of my shops, can I just move that whole thing?
Oh, what's up with it?
The sponsorship will get done by him.
Is that okay?
That's perfect.
That's that shot.
And you don't have to have the dog on, yeah?
Well, you don't have to.
You're alright, okay.
She'll just put her on.
She's a nice addition.
She is. Cool. Well, welcome, Matt, for episode 2. So Matt basically ruined our lives a few weeks ago when he valued the Louth property, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
And we decided, well, the only way we can get him back is to
Hammer him on here.
Hammer him on the podcast. But Matt, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into being an estate agent? Have you always liked it, or you know, did you want to do something else?
Yeah, no, I'd love to be able to give you a romantic answer about I've always dreamt of being an estate agent, but I don't really think anybody dreams of being an estate agent, I don't think. No, basically, this is one of the things I was thinking about last night, actually, about you never look back and think, like, how did it all start or whatever, but essentially what happened for me was a girlfriend at the time, we were around one of her family members, and I'd always looked, you know, you used to get the property pages in the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
I'd always flick through them anyway, just because I was interested.
Yeah.
And got talking to him. He knew somebody who was a manager at one of the offices in Boston. And he had a quick word with him and said, there's nothing at the moment, but tell him to chuck his CV in and we'll see what's what. And I was sort of 18, I think, then. So anyway, I sort of put my suit on, and it looked like my dad's suit, like
over baggy.
Yeah. And went and threw my CV in, and then literally sort of luckily enough, made it about 5 minutes down the road, and then the phone rang. Then he said, "Where are you?" "Well, down the road." "Oh, come back and see me." "Okay." So I went back, and then we had a chat, and the rest is history, really. Sort of just gave me an opportunity as a T-boy.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of all started from there, really.
So, because we were literally just talking earlier about being a T-boy. Yeah. And you said that was like the easiest that it's been, and you almost wish you could go back to that.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the happiest, I would say. Yeah. That I've been, which sounds really bad.
Being a bitch.
Obviously it's really great now, but yeah, then everything was a lot simpler, and like I was saying earlier, like all you had to do really was make the people that were directly above you happy, and the way that you did that was, you know, basically making sure that they had a hot cup of tea, or you know, I'll go do that viewing for you, or I'll go get them keys, or whatever it might be. Yeah. And that's what gave you job satisfaction there. That's what you were there to do. Yeah. And obviously, the more you develop in your career or whatever, your happiness then becomes reliant on less people above you, but more people below you.
Yeah, you feel vulnerable and lonely. And,
yeah.
So how did you transition? So you were obviously there when you were 18.
Yeah.
How did you kind of build up? Did you stay with this company for a long time, or how did it?
Yeah, so basically worked my way up. There wasn't a lot of up going on.
Right.
The thing I remember at the time was I didn't have a desk.
Okay.
There was only 4 desks in the front office.
Right.
So I didn't have a desk. So my aim was to get a desk first.
Yeah.
That happened. I forget how, you know, whatever happens, blah, blah, blah. You end up with a desk, it's great. Well, we fast forward a couple of years, and then we had the 2007-2008 recession and credit crunch and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And what happened as a company, they started making certain people redundant. I was quite lucky. I never got made redundant, but that was probably because I was quite cheap. You know. But what did happen is the people that I'd worked with and that brought me into that company, they did get made redundant. So it became a very different place to work. And I'm one of them people that I've got to be happy. If I'm not happy at work, spend a lot of time at work. I put a lot of effort into it. If I'm not happy, I'm not doing it.
No.
So I left without another job or anything to go to, which didn't go down well with parents and stuff like that.
How old were you at the time then? At that point,
probably about 20, I guess.
Okay,
20, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that sort of was a really, really great time because I learned loads of stuff that I still know now, still do every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I worked with there, I'm still in touch with now.
Yeah.
It sort of it wasn't the same. So I left, did something completely different for about 18 months, and then weirdly bumped into a guy that I used to know in a pub. He worked for Newton Fallowell, and said, would you get back into it? There might be something coming up. So I did, went and met them.
Yeah.
And that was at a time when Newton Fallowell was still centrally owned, so it was still, they had like 3 offices.
Okay.
Got
they
back
always
into
been
it then.
local, Newton Fallowell?
So it's in Grantham.
Yeah.
So it started in Grantham, and then really, really cool guy. He's sort of retired now, Mark Newton. Really cool guy, real good guy.
Yeah.
He started it up with a couple of other people, and then there was one in Grantham, one in Newark, pretty quickly, and then one in Boston. And then what they did eventually was franchise offices out.
Okay.
So there was offices in Sleaford, Lincoln. It started growing and growing, and then eventually they sold out to Belvoir, which are a PLC, and Belvoir went on to grow and swallow up other brands. So locally, you'll have seen like Lavell's.
Yes.
There's a company called Northwoods. There's lots of other different estate agency brands, but they're all under that Belvoir PLC banner.
Right. Okay.
Is that why we're seeing them disappear then? Because I feel like we've seen loads disappear recently.
What's that? Actual agents?
Yeah.
Or, not necessarily, because
where are Hunters?
Yeah. So Hunters are a similar thing, but they are under a different. So whereas like we're at our franchisor is Belvoir, or was actually Hunters. Theirs was a different one. Theirs was the Property Franchise Group, which is another huge company, franchise machine, if you like.
Right.
Not as good though, obviously.
Well, you say that. So as of last week, the Property Franchise Group and Belvoir came together.
Oh.
So now that group is by far the biggest estate agency like franchise group in the country.
So that's quite common then, that they just franchise out.
Yeah. So what
I wasn't aware of that.
I wasn't aware. I thought they were all independent.
Yeah. So what sort of happened within the industry? This perhaps gets a bit boring, but what's happened is as the industry's evolved over the last like 10, 15 years, you've seen like the rise and fall of online agents and stuff. That was a big thing a few years ago, and now you hardly ever see them about really. And Purplewoods got bought out by Strike and all the rest of it.
Right.
But what has happened and what sort of developed and evolved is franchises. So the thing about franchises is that there might be one office and somebody owns it, and they might have 2 or 3 staff members. Well, that person is working in that office and it's their business, so they've got a real vested interest. So it's like for me and Ben, we are estate agents first and foremost. We just happen to have offices that we own.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why it's ended up working quite well, because you've got people that are massively committed to making their business work, but in the same breath are actually estate agents.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But have accidentally become business owners, you see.
Right.
Does it affect your profit then, the franchisor? Do they take a percentage of the...
Yeah.
I'm always going to ask you an awkward question, man.
I mean, the franchise question is something we've had a lot over the years, and from the outside looking in, the obvious thing is that we're giving away part of our profits to them every month.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, it can be a lot of money.
Yeah, so they take a percentage of what you're doing. Obviously, you're not going to say on here.
No, I don't want to know that, but I just it's interesting to...
Well, no, I was going to say, would you consider ever going, this is now ours, we're doing it separate?
Yeah, so basically, on the face of it, you look at it and say, right, well, we're giving a significant amount of money to them each year.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you don't, I think there is a sweet spot with a franchise, with an estate agency one anyway.
Yeah.
Where you earn, you do a certain amount of business. So you're giving them a certain amount, but you're not doing too much business that you're giving them loads.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's a double-edged sword because
it is,
you do want to do loads of business, but then you look at that, bloody hell, we've given them loads. However, as a caveat to that, I wouldn't be where I am now without that franchise machine.
Yeah.
Both Ben, who I own the offices with, and I, we don't come from money. Like we don't. There's no money.
No.
So without, particularly Belvoir in the latter years, without their backing on certain occasions, we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done, or we probably would have been able to do it, but we'd have had to have gone, to certain funders or whatever it might be, loopholes, raise the money ourselves, do whatever we were having to do to try and do it, or not do it at all. You see, so
has it helped you with getting?
It's helped us grow our business massively. So for us, it happened quite organically because we had the Boston thing. Basically, after a while, cut a long story short, I came into the Boston one later on, but at the time I was like a sales negotiator there, and for me personally, I'd seen that. So I used to keep I still do now for all the offices, to be fair, but I used to keep like a spreadsheet of everything that I sold, what was going through and stuff like that. So like at the end of the year, you'd look at what you'd sold and look at how much fees that had earned the business, and then think, well, how much have I been paid? And then you're like, well, I'm on the wrong side of this fence here. So I always wanted to do my own franchise because of that reason, basically. I had some family that lived in Spilsby, and it was my mum actually, and she'd moved out, and we tried to. I'd obviously helped her. She was trying to buy one, and the agent was awful. The service was non-existent, just from start to finish, And I basically felt like if we went and opened an office there, we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. We could do the same thing, just better.
Just better,
and that's why we did Spilsby. Horncastle we stumbled over in COVID. Lavelles had sold out to Belvoir.
Okay.
Belvoir then came to us and said, "We've taken Lavelles over. Do you want the Horncastle office?" So we bought that then.
He's created his own monster here, hasn't he?
Yeah.
When do you stop? Would you carry on? Are you going to do more? Or are you...
No. So the problem is, now that I was saying to Sam up there, so the fourth one, Skeg, was a big office and it's got lettings as well. So that's the first time we've got involved with rentals. Yeah. And that's changed quite a lot for us as a business. And I don't think we would go out of our way now to try and find another office.
No.
However, when we did Horncastle, we bought the territory for Woodall at the same time.
Okay, brilliant.
So if somebody approached us that wanted to was in Woodall and wanted to sell up or whatever, we would take that over.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, in Woodall, the way things are, if somebody had a shop in Woodall that they didn't want anymore, we would probably just take the shops, just so we had an area. We do that.
Just from the listener's point of view, I mean, Woodall is probably the most affluent area in our area.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
A house price is what percentage more than...
It's hard to say really, but I mean, I always like to give people pound note figures because they can sometimes understand it a bit better. But let's say your average 4-bed detached house here in Boston is 280 grand.
Yeah. That
same house in Woodall will be 450.
Wow.
Well, how does it dictate more money?
If I'm honest with you, mate, I don't really know.
No,
it's a nice place, isn't it? Like, it's very tree lined. It's leafy. You know, the
picturesque.
The golf. It's really well serviced. The golf club is a big thing.
Yeah. It's historical, I suppose.
Really
as well.
historical. Yeah. It's got a couple of nice hotels.
If it's just to compare it with like other towns or villages, the there's not a lot in it, is
It's
there?
not a lot. No.
Not really.
But there's a lot for older people.
Yeah.
And it's all within walking distance.
Yeah.
And they're the people with all the
But
money.
they're the ones with the money.
Yeah.
They're
And
the
there's
ones
not
that can
enough
afford the
houses.
houses.
That's
as well.
It's one of those places though that a house goes up on the market and within a matter of weeks it's gone. It's like
Yeah. One of the things that happens with Woodall though, and this happens all over the place, all over the country probably, when you've got a road or an area that's seen as a really good address, sometimes people get carried away with it and they overvalue it.
Right.
So somebody will say, oh well, I live in Woodall, so I want £500,000 for my house that's only worth
The terraced
400.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's only worth 400. It comes on the market, it doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And then you sort of, why is all this stuff on the market and it's not selling? Well, it's because people have got a little bit too carried away.
Yeah.
Like, it is nice, but let's not
Yeah.
get carried away.
No.
You know, but yeah, it's...
Certainly its own pocket, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on a week-to-week basis, what is your biggest headache as a business owner? I mean, it's probably the same as everybody else's, but
That's because there's two of them, isn't there? So there's Ben as well. That obviously,
yeah.
he's more. You said on the tools.
Ben
kind
loves to be sort of on the tools, as it were.
Got you.
That's where he's happiest. So
Yeah.
I guess biggest headache now.
Staff. Sorry, staff.
He didn't actually say that.
No, he
No.
didn't. I see he's thinking it.
But it is, yeah, it is the truth. Do you know the scary thing is? I know we're incredibly lucky because we've got really good people that work with us.
Yeah.
What it must be like for companies that don't have that relationship with people, it must be a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
The thing is, though, you've obviously created a culture in which you only employ people that are like-minded, probably, and that's the thing. You've created that, so
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to employ people, and it's getting harder.
Yeah.
But I think everybody says that now.
But that's mind-blowing. I mean, from a builder's point of view, from my previous engineering background, I thought it was difficult. But you wouldn't have thought it'd be every single industry, but it seems to be every industry.
Yeah, we employed somebody last year as a trainee role in Boston, which Ben and I were both really excited about because that's what we started doing.
Yeah.
So we thought if we can find like a really good, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, they're going to be with us for the next, like we was.
Yeah,
that's what we wanted. Yeah. And with all due respect to everybody that we met.
They don't exist anymore.
No. We were really lucky. We did employ a young lady, and she's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's just a really, really good person.
Yeah.
She's great. And she's learning the job, and it's been really nice to see her. She was quite shy at the beginning, but she's now come out of a shell. You've got to, in an office, especially in a estate agent's office, because it's absolute carnage.
Yeah. Is it?
Is it like banter flying about and stuff?
It's not as bad as it used to be,
right.
But it's,
You're not allowed to be.
Yeah.
You can't anymore, can you?
But it can be intense, and it can be, you've got to be loud, and you've got to be heard, and
that
actually
Wolf
just
of
get
Wall
swallowed
Street
up.
style.
Oh, that's what I
It's
like.
not,
Would you consider yourself a salesman then?
No.
You've got to be, though. There's got to be a certain degree of salesman in you.
So
is Ben then? But would you say Ben's a salesman?
Not really. No.
Do you know what the hell are you doing, man?
How have you made this work?
How are you selling?
Who's selling?
So basically, and these are my own. This is only my own sort of philosophy on it. So I'm not saying it's the way to do it, but what I think is that buying a house is a really emotional thing. It's a big thing. You don't accidentally buy a house. You don't flog someone a house. But even if I could convince you to buy a house, which I probably could do, you would then, for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, be sat at home at night, you'd be talking, and you'd be thinking, I don't think I'm doing the right thing here, and you just pull out.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Great example of this is I've got a friend, I've grown up with him, and he's in the motor trade, and he, for the last few years, has finished the top salesman in the country for that brand that he works for. Ridiculous.
Wow.
It's absolutely crazy. He's so good at selling cars.
Okay. Closing a deal. And
He was an estate agent for a while, and he'd sell 20 houses and 19 of them would fall through because it's a much longer transaction.
Oh, it is,
so he's fantastic at overcoming hurdles.
Yeah.
So all sorts of stuff that he'll say and do to get that deal done. Of course, when you buy a car, it's all done within a few days.
So,
you sign the dotted line, you drive off. Not my problem.
Yeah.
you bought the car now.
Yeah.
Like even me now, if I contact him about a new car, I know I've got to be half ready to buy that car because
he'll have you, will he?
Yeah, he will have me. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to go see him.
I don't think you do.
No, he doesn't.
But with regards to houses, it's not like that. For me, and the people that we try and employ, and the people that work with us, our biggest aim is much more customer focused. You've got to like listen twice as much as you speak. You've got to understand what people want, and a lot of the time you've got to know what they want when they don't know what they want.
It's way harder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a much more. It's a, like I said, it's a longer process, and it's there's a lot more psychology involved with it if you're really going to get into it.
Is more of the selling done on actually getting someone to allow you to sell their home rather than selling people homes?
Yeah, so
I would imagine that's the harder sell, surely.
Yeah, so that's the age-old thing with the estate agency is that if we haven't got the house to sell, you're not buying it from us.
No.
You know, you're buying it from that other agent because they've got the house that you want. So really, you are then selling yourself to prospective vendors and people who want to sell their house. But again, even then, when I go in to see somebody that they're looking at selling the house, what I'll often say to them is that you've got to, the way that you should pick your agent is you should do your research first, go online, check the reviews and stuff like that, and then you pick your agents, you have your valuations, and you need to forget everything about figures, everything about money, everything about fees, because you can always have a conversation on that stuff.
Right.
What you can't change is what that person is like fundamentally.
Yeah.
So if I often have a joke with people, if I come and see your house and give you a valuation and stuff and tell you your house is worth the most money that anybody said and I'm only going to charge you a £5, if you thought I was a knobhead, you're not going to use me.
You wouldn't do it.
No.
Yeah.
So
pick
the people that you like, that you're going to work with, because you're going to work with these people for the next 9 months probably.
Yeah.
It's going to be if you do it properly, you're going to get to know them really well. So it might as well be with someone that you like and you get on with, and then start saying, right, I want £1 million for my house, and I don't want to pay your fee, I want to pay this fee, and all the rest of it.
So that's from a selling point of view.
Yeah.
If someone's buying a house, in some ways it's almost irrelevant who's selling it to you, because if you want that house, you want that house.
You're getting it.
Yeah, and of course from a buyer, you don't pay the agent anything. So, you know, that's often, sometimes what will happen is a buyer will come and view a house, and they'll say to you as a seller, let's not do it through the agent, let's do it privately.
Oh, right.
And then 9 times out of 10 the seller rings us and goes, this idiot said blah blah blah, what's going on here? And we go, well, there's only one reason they're doing that, because something's not quite kosher.
Right.
Because it don't matter to them if they buy it through us, it's not costing them any money.
No.
It's costing you, or you know. So is there something? We're obviously going to check their finances, we're going to check their chain, we're going to follow it through and all that sort of stuff. So is there something they're hiding, or why would they? What's their motivation behind that?
Can a seller do that? So if you have one of their house listed, and then they want to sell it privately, do you have a contract that says they can't do that?
Yeah. So yeah, we have contracts, we have agency agreements.
Right.
Basically, what a sole agency will essentially say is that if your house is on the market with that agent, if it sells during that period of time, you will pay that agent.
Got you. Okay.
Because whether the person's seen the board, they've seen it online, wherever they've seen it, if they then come and knock on your door, ultimately that agent still had a hand in the sale of that property.
Yeah.
And more importantly than that, you need the agent to act as an agent between you and that buyer, because every single time, and I mean every time, somebody has said, oh, we've swapped numbers. Great.
Right.
Brilliant. 6 weeks later, they're on the phone. Oh, you're going to have a word with them. They won't stop ringing me. or they're falling out with each other because of this, that or the other.
Right.
You need somebody to almost translate.
It's mediation, isn't it?
Yeah. What's going on, and keep people. And that's the biggest part of the job. That's what makes a good agent, is somebody that can see a situation and then navigate a path through it to get to where everybody wants to be, and keep everybody on the same page, keep everybody happy with each other, and just keep everything calm.
So you're right. I agree with you now. You're not a salesman. You're almost like you're the people person.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, as the online, because everything is online now, you can access absolutely everything online.
Yeah.
Does that make it harder for a sell or easier for a sell? Because if you market yourself well, the way I only look at myself and I think if I market myself well, I can sell myself. And is that what you do with yourself, with the business? If you market yourself better than someone else, does that secure you a better deal?
Yeah, so it does. I think one of the biggest things that's helped. So our business, particularly in Boston, we'll use Boston as a good example. Our office in Boston over the last, I don't know, let's say 5 years, 6 years, has improved year on year.
Yeah.
To the point now where last year we were the top selling agent. We're one of the biggest agents in the area. So great. One of the main reasons of that is because of how we have presented ourselves to the public. So for a long time, all of our properties have been shot by a professional photographer. And we are lucky, his name's Dean, he's brilliant. But he only shoots for us. That was the deal we had with him at the beginning, is that he only ever shoots for us. So if you want those photos, and we have had this before, people have come to us, we always ask, why are you using us? Where did you find us? That sort of stuff. Oh, we want to use you because you've got the best photos. Well, if you want them photos, you've got to use us. I wouldn't tell Dean that because hopefully he's not watching.
Price has just gone up.
Yeah. But because what I want is for somebody to go on Rightmove or Zoop or whatever and scroll through the properties, and that I want them to see every single Newton Fallowell listing is presented in the right way. There's a floor plan on it. The photos are as good as they can be, and they look right. Every single house, as standard, gets that. It's like when sometimes people will say, "Oh, can you reduce your fee a bit?" You know, and I don't mind not having a floor plan. I don't. With all due respect, that's not your choice. It's we're selling the house. You are having a floor plan.
Yeah.
If we need to do a deal on the fee, that will be a different conversation. But that's how we're doing it.
It's interesting because like some houses are so deceiving, but a photograph can make something look incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you can go there and you're like, well, this isn't what it looked like.
Yeah. But do you not think with that, right? So, you know, when you're looking at something online and you're looking at the photograph, you subconsciously in your head build a full picture of that house around the photograph.
Yeah.
I do it now. I watched your first podcast, and now I've come in the studio. Now it's totally different than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's very small.
I'm touching the wall. But you build up an idea, and I've had this on viewings. It happens all the time. You'll turn up, people go, "Oh, you've got a good camera," or whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, but." Number one, what do you expect us to do? Take a crap picture? No, we're going to try and make it as good as it can be. Yeah. But number two, we actually, contrary to popular belief, we don't want to make the lounge look bigger than it is. We don't want that because you're going to walk in and go, what's going on here?
Yeah.
That's why we can't rely on just purely online though. You have to physically
You've got to go.
and see.
Yes.
You have to go and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Tell me about what the house, the house and how it works and everything. Tell me the problems that there might be. Yeah. And that's what you have to do. You can't take away the agent, I don't think.
No. Yeah.
Has Rightmove been a godsend or has it been a nightmare?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been both. So the great thing is that anybody in the world now can just hop on there and they can search and they can find your property. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Does everything go on there, Matt?
Yes and no. So 99% of properties, if an agent is on Rightmove, 99% of the time, all of their stuff will be on there. I can obviously only speak for my company.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I know that there are occasions where, let's say, you've got a house to sell, you ring me, Matt, I've got this rental house, I want to sell it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, no problem. Well, I know Sam will buy that. Right. Sam, hello, mate, I've got a client, wants to get rid of his rental house. You interested? Well, I am, mate. Yeah, let's go and have a viewing. We put a deal together, we sell the house, it's never been on Rightmove, nobody else has seen it, and it's sold and gone through. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just that maybe if it had gone online, would somebody else have seen it? Would you have maybe got a bit more money for it? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
Sometimes that situation is the best way to do a deal.
Yeah.
Because you might need, You might say, God, I want to buy a brand new Ferrari and I need to sell my house quick. Yeah. Okay, no problem. I know a man. Do you want to buy this house quick? But it's got to be quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And the deal's been done. And ultimately, that is the essence of a deal. If you're happy as a seller and you're happy as a buyer, we'll do a deal. Okay. And it's great. If not...
That's the same with us, though. That's not detrimental, I don't think.
No.
That's just business, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Do Rightmove take a percentage from you? Or is it like eBay?
No, so basically how Rightmove do it, it's a total racket, Rightmove is. So basically...
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
So basically Rightmove charge you a monthly fee, so a monthly subscription.
Okay.
So it varies greatly. Depending on a lot of things, depending on the size of your company, the size of your group, all that sort of stuff. They also have packages that give you extra. So if you've seen on there, you've got like featured agent and stuff like that. They cost us money, so that's something that we pay for to have that on Rightmove. Our bills, Ben will tell you straight off the top of his head, but our bills for Rightmove are in their thousands of pounds each month.
Flipping heck.
Bearing in mind we've got 4 offices, but each office is over £1,000 a month.
So it's not just like a percentage of the amount of houses you've got on there.
No. And that's the thing, right? So if you're, this is why I would never start an office from scratch.
Right.
Before I had them, you used to say, if somebody came along and said, right, go set up an estate agent, how much do you need? I need 100 grand. Because the thing is with us, we don't get paid until the house goes through. So you're not getting paid anything until that first house goes through, which might be 6 months down the road. But you still got all your bills, all your wages, all your office costs, all that sort of stuff keeps coming before that. So you used to say, 100 grand would probably get you through. Now, somebody said to me, there's a blank check, how much do you need? 200-300 grand probably. To actually do it and stick at it. And some of the agents that do it from scratch, we've got some colleagues that have other franchises that sometimes they'll keep in touch, and we've obviously been through it, so they'll sort of say, how did this happen, or how did you get on with that? And I do feel for them, because if they've got a £1,200 Rightmove bill, but they've sold 1 house that month.
But bizarrely, it'd be stupid not to have it.
You can't not have it. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. They've got you, because you can't not be on Rightmove. Yeah.
Okay.
Has Rightmove made it that every customer of yours, every vendor, thinks they know how much their house is worth? Because we do it, don't we? We
That's
look and
what
we go,
we base it on,
this will be worth this much. I don't know whether you've noticed, but sometimes we don't think that the things that we're doing are worth
we
what
think
you
you're all
think
wrong.
they are.
I feel like everybody must feel like that.
Yeah. So one of the great things about Rightmove is that there is so much information available to people now. So agents are no different. We'll hop on Rightmove and we'll look at what's on the market, what's been selling and stuff like that. We'll just look at it from a slightly different viewpoint than what you will as a seller. So as a seller, we all have, like I call it optimism, like bias optimism. I do myself. I think my house is worth more than it is. Like everyone does. It's our job to come and like constructively explain to you and educate you as to why we think the figures are where they should be. But you know what the really difficult thing is with it, with valuing stuff, is that it's not an exact science. There's no guidebook. There's nothing. Value is determined by the buyer. And if that buyer wants that house, it's a bit like what we've spoke about in Laugh, is that because it's quite a unique property, if I would never ever ever stick my neck on the line and said, I'm just never going to get that, never going to get that, I will always say things to clients like, in my opinion, I think we're going to be really lucky if that happens. I think this, I think that. I'll never say it's never going to happen, because I've seen stuff before that sells for loads of money and I think, who the hell has bought that? But I've also seen stuff that I think is wicked and doesn't sell.
Wow.
And like, why ain't that selling? And I've had conversations with people before where, like sellers, where I said, honestly, I've got no idea why your house isn't selling. I've got no idea. It's just the market. It's just the right person hasn't seen it or whatever. But you know, sellers, they are more educated now than they ever have been.
How long would you say is long enough for it to be on the market for before you start questioning it?
Well, how much you've got it on for?
So interest being viewings, and then people putting in offers.
So, I think that if we put a house on the market, we know within a few days whether we've hit it about right or not.
Okay.
So, I know that sounds really quick, and a lot of sellers will say, oh, it's only been on 4 weeks, don't worry, or it's only been 6 weeks, and that's fine, because as long as you're happy, that's okay.
Yeah.
We're here to provide you the feedback and the advice, that's what you're paying us for. Whether you action it or not is your call.
Yeah.
But once we put something on, if it's right, the phone will start ringing straight away, and the leads will come through straight away through Rightmove and stuff like that.
Okay.
Certainly within 2-3 weeks, if there's not been a dicky bird, then it's probably too much money.
We change it.
But like I said, having said that, we've had occasions where a house has been on, it's had no interest, and then all of a sudden,
bang,
somebody will view it, and they'll say, that's perfect, I love it.
It's the right person, isn't it? Yeah.
We're going to get a feeling after that period of time. We're going to get a bit of a feeling of, is that all right? Is it not? And then again, once you're a week into it, you've got an even more of a feeling. 2 weeks into it, you're like, I pretty much know that maybe it's not quite right. And you guys will do it when you feel comfortable doing something. The only thing sometimes what can happen is if a property comes on at far too much money, we don't often have this, because Ben and I are very fortunate that we don't have to take the property on. Makes no difference to us whether we list it or not.
Okay.
If it's not right, we will say to people, that's not for us. Thank you, but it's not for us, because we just don't think it's gonna. We're not on the same page. It's too much money, whatever. We'll say it in a really lovely way, obviously, but we will turn stuff down.
Are you ready to hear that, Sam, when you get the house on the market? You'd be like,
I've been dragging you along, but we're not putting it on the market.
I'll never speak to him again.
But occasionally, if something does come on and it is far too much money, it's a bit of a cliche, but you only get one first impression with it. So the best time for a property is when it first comes on the market. So if it comes on and it's just wildly too much money, that first period of time you've had on Rightmove and whatever, when everybody's looking at it and it's at the top of the search results and stuff, you're losing that because you're just too much money, far too much money.
It's like when you see them that say property reduced price on, and I just think, oh.
You almost need to get it right first time.
Ideally, you would get it right first time, but it's impossible to do because, like I said, there's no rule book as to how it works.
That's interesting you say that it being reduced sort of affects your opinion on the.
Does mine?
Yeah.
Because it's not sold. Why is it?
But that's like.
Or I'd be thinking, I'll go in for less then.
Yeah.
I'll go in for less because I'll be thinking, well, it hasn't sold at that price. And it got reduced then, and that was 2 months ago. So if it was on at like say 365, I'd be like, I'm going in with a 315 offer on that one.
Just for a cheeky one.
Yeah, because I'd be thinking, well, how long can it sit there without getting?
Just going back to difficult things that you have to live with on a weekly basis, is like managing people's expectations probably one of the biggest then?
You've got to manage people.
Yeah.
That's not something you try and do. You should be subconsciously always managing people's expectations. The worst thing you can do in this job is overpromise stuff.
Would you almost go worst case scenario to people?
No, because sometimes I do often give people a worst case scenario, just so I'm completely open with them. What I'll often do is say to people, look, I think it should be worth about this much, but I think it's definitely not worth any more than this, and it's got to be worth more than this low figure. You know, and then with that you build up. You take all this data in and you build up an idea of this is probably where it's going to be.
So I wanted to reserve a little section of this podcast to talk about everyone's issue, and that's solicitors. So
we got big issues with them.
Well, I've never spoken to a person within what we do that doesn't moan about solicitors. Why are they all the same? And why do they not want to get things done quickly? Because surely, from my point of view, be like, yep, this customer's got this job, let's get it done and out of the way. Are they a nightmare for you?
On the whole part, they they can make the process slightly more challenging.
Yeah.
Yes.
Getting squirming.
He's being careful with his words.
Do you know? So, I suppose the first thing to say is not all solicitors are the same.
Okay.
There are a couple out there, you know, that are really nice people and have that philosophy.
Yeah.
Get them in, get them out.
Yeah.
The other thing in their defence is that they work in an industry. We live in a time now where it's a blame culture. If something goes wrong with your house 2 years down the road, first thing you're going to do is turn to the solicitor, turn to the surveyor. You're going to look for somebody to blame because you don't want it to be your fault. Yeah. Nobody ever turns around anymore and says, "That's my fault."
Yeah.
No.
And like one of my biggest sort of like sayings that it's not my saying, but like one of my biggest things that I always try and think about, and I tell everybody all the time, is if something goes wrong, the first thing you should do is think, right, what could I have done differently to have changed that outcome? Yeah. Even if it wasn't your fault, you could have done something different at some point to change it, and no one does that anymore. But again, in my opinion, a lot of firms haven't re-employed like they should have done when the market got busy after COVID.
Right.
So a lot of the conveyancers and fee earners and things that you're dealing with are just massively overworked. They might be dealing with 200-300 cases.
Flipping heck.
And it's impossible. My other theory on this is that I think, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think that the conveyancing industry is at very serious danger of going down the same road as the travel industry did. So you used to have Thomas Cook offices all over the place, and there was 2 or 3 in Boston. When they're not there anymore, and the reason for that is because people can do it online. Now conveyancing is going a similar way. People are getting seriously pissed off with conveyancing and the time it takes and the money it's costing, and if I'm honest with you, the experience they're having.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a nice experience. No. You're often falling out with them, or you're getting a bit of a salty response, or a shortly worded email. And you think, well, hang on a minute. I'm the client.
I'm paying you.
I wonder if less people are becoming solicitors as well. Like, you don't hear someone go, "Oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a solicitor."
It's like an accountant.
But
it's probably down to laziness though, because it takes so long to train for things like that. Are people going, "Oh, that's too much like hard work, I'm not doing that"? But
I mean, don't quote me on this because I'm.
Well, we are going to
potentially
do it online.
Yeah. Okay, so disclaimer: I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you're a fee earner or a conveyancer, my understanding is that you actually don't need loads and loads and loads of qualifications or training. My understanding is, and I know people that are fee earners or working conveyancing. Their title might not be a solicitor or whatever, but they're acting in conveyancing, and they've just got experience, you know. But the conveyancing industry that moved online as well a few years ago, and people would come to and say, "Oh, I'm using this online conveyancing factory in Birmingham or wherever because it's £1,000 cheaper," and we'd be like, "Oh God." Well, what's happened now is that's evolved. And a lot of these online companies now have got their act together. They've worked out where it was going wrong, and they've sorted it. So now you actually can. We work with a firm at the moment. They are they've got offices in, I think it's Peterborough, Manchester, a couple of other places. A lot of them work from home, but they're good. They're good. You get one person. You're dealing with the same person all the time. That conveyancer is targeted on customer satisfaction.
Okay.
You'll get a little like 5-star review thing and stuff, and they're constantly getting reviewed. And unless they're getting a certain score, it affects them in their pocket and all that sort of stuff. They've sorted it all out, and it actually kind of works now. And unless local firms, old-fashioned firms, sort themselves out, it's going to go in the same way because like 5-6 years ago, I would have never ever told somebody to use an online agent, online solicitor. But now, if it was the right company, and don't get me wrong, there's probably only 2 or 3 about. But if it was the right one, I'd be like, okay.
So, where are we at now in the industry with, or the market, should I say? You know, things have been crap. You know, for us, haven't they? In general, if you look at it, is it? Are we optimistic for the future, or are we still?
Yeah, I think it feels crap because it's been so good.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I think off the back of COVID, it was mental. And stuff was selling, hand over fist. And then obviously things calmed down. And
were they your best years, the COVID?
Yeah.
Were they really?
Yeah.
So we feel like this is normal now then?
We're back to, this is where it should probably be.
So it's not bad then, necessarily? All right.
No, it's all right.
So mortgage rates are never going to go back to where they were?
Well, again, never say never, but I'd be really surprised if they did.
Yeah.
My personal view is that they'll probably still come down a little bit more, and then I imagine they'll level out.
So I've got an interesting one. I'm thinking about your business, and what would you like your end goal to be with your business, with what you're doing now?
So we're in I see it, the way I look at it is in like periods of time, so like in stages. So the stage that I see that we're in now is to maintain what we've got and just keep compounding on top of it. If another acquisition comes along in Woodall, if another office wants to sell out, a rental portfolio comes up, whatever, we'll still invest in the business and build it, probably for another 10 years-ish, 15 years. And I think we've both had, little conversations with each other. I think at that point we will start looking at coming out.
And be proud of what you've built up, basically.
Yeah.
So would you go independent then?
No, I wouldn't do it. No,
you just wouldn't do it. So you wouldn't become an estate agent anywhere else then? No.
You'd literally change your job completely and do something totally different.
Yeah, I'd probably garden or something. I really like gardening.
Wow, that seems really drastic. When you're in, building it up to where you want to be, and then just going, I'm going to be a gardener, mate.
Nah, I think.
What would you predict? What would you have predicted?
I'd have said it go independent. That's what.
I thought that as well. Yeah.
Why?
One of the things I've learned, I think, is from doing these acquisitions. A lot of the people that we've purchased the businesses from, they waited too long to get out.
Right.
A lot of the chaps that we purchased from were 60, 70 years old. And not that I know this for certain, but I would imagine, and from knowing other people in the industry, I would imagine their lives they've sacrificed a lot in their lives because of their job. Like, I know this, pass me the violin, but I never don't think about work, ever. I know that sounds extreme, but it's the truth. Ever. If we're on holiday, if it's Christmas, if it's whatever, I never don't think about work. And like some people, like I've got a couple of mates that are in the trades and whatever, and they'll be like, sitting behind a desk again or whatever. I wake up at sort of 5:45 every morning. First thing I do is look at my phone. So I might answer an email at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're constantly at work.
It doesn't stop, does it?
No. And the thing I've sort of learned in my many years is that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Like I now value time loads more than I do money. Obviously, money's dead important. People that say, "Oh, money's not important," yes, it is. It obviously is, because you want nice stuff and you don't want to worry about, oh God, I've got to try and buy shopping or tea or whatever.
Is Ben like that as well? Do you think Ben's?
Yeah.
So really, we've said this numerous times. All the money does is get you to the next better bit, which is it offers freedom. You time and freedom.
Yeah, I think the key to it. There's a really elegant way of putting this, and it's going to escape me now. But the key to this stuff, right, is appreciating what you have in the moment, because it's like that age-old thing, like with cars, you go get a new car, like, oh God, wow, this is brilliant, this is great. 6 weeks later, oh, that car's smart. And then eventually, like, where does it end? You get a Ferrari. Like, we've all heard them stories and listened to them podcasts, read them books. People have bought their Ferrari and then gone. The enjoyment is in the chase of doing it.
Yeah.
I listened to a thing that Noel Gallagher said, and he said their most enjoyable time of being in a band was just before they got famous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when they got famous, it was just boring because they'd done it.
Yeah.
And the chase is the good bit. Yeah. I think that's the thing that we've all got here, and probably people listening, is being an entrepreneur is an illness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can't help but do it.
That's why you'll never become a gardener. You'll never stop.
Oh, good point.
You'll never stop.
Yeah, you're right.
If you haven't made it where you want to make it, there'll be something else.
I mean, I don't really that whole entrepreneur word is like gives me the like cringe a little bit, because I feel like you hear so many people like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and like what are you doing?
Yeah.
What have you done? Oh, well, you know, I'm thinking about doing this, and I'm thinking about doing that. Well, I haven't actually seen you do any work yet. Like, there's lots of stuff going on, but what are you actually doing? So like Ben always says like when we get conversations with people, and he'll say like we are estate agents. We are estate agents. We've accidentally, on purpose, ended up with these businesses. And one day we'll sell them, and then we'll decide what we're.
I think you're playing yourself.
I was going to say, you sound like an entrepreneur to me, mate. I'm sorry. Brilliant. Well, Matt, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
We'll look forward to the future of working with Newton Fallowell.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed. One day you'll do a house and I'll actually tell you it's worth more than you thought.
Yeah,
that'll be the day.
Oh, Jesus, I pray for that day. You're going to say that when you go to Eastfield Road, mate.
Yeah. Oh, actually.